What's up, Nitrogang? This is an HPI Super Nitro RS4, one of the RCs that I want HPI to bring back.
We got the Nitrogang out here.
Nitro World Order. I am on a journey to make Nitro great again, and this is one of the cars I want HPI to bring back. I've recently been buying almost every single brand new HPI that they sell, and I am very happy, but they forgot about the on-road segment. This is a 1997 to probably a 2002 HPI Super Nitro RS4. I have a lot of love, a lot of admiration and respect for this chassis. This particular one was donated to my channel. I have recently restored this one and I posted a little clip on Instagram. Take a look at this. I did a lot of work. It does run, it does start, and I love it. HPI Super Nitro RS4, 0.15 FE engine. You can't kill a nitro. Video coming soon. One of the coolest nitro cars ever in history. I have a couple of other 10 scale nitro touring cars. We have the HPI Super Nitro from the HPI catalog, and we have the original instruction manual. And maybe we'll take a look at some extra high in-depth detailed original paperwork that this HPI came with. I already want to talk about what this is, but I can't. It's not time for that yet. We'll get to the carb in a little bit. It has a very interesting carb. Let me just call it what it is. I've put the Super Nitro in between two other classic HPIs. These are both 10 scale. This is a newer RS4 3 Drift, and this is the famous Dale Earnhardt RS4 Nitro. So let me remove the body and you guys will understand what is going on. But I think you could already tell that this Super Nitro is clearly a little bit wider than the rest. It really isn't that much longer. I have aligned them in the back here, and the Super Nitro is a little bit longer. But what really matters is why they call this a Super. We'll take a closer look. With the body removed, you could tell how awesome it is. I'm just kidding. We haven't even got into the details yet, but you will understand why it's just so awesome. Let's remove the body from this RS4. And I think you guys see, if I put them up side to side, the Super Nitro has much larger wheels. So what's very awesome about this, and we'll get into the details that HPI talked about in a little bit, but I just want to summarize. This particular chassis is a very rare size. They claim that it is 20% bigger than the basic 10 scale, which we have here. And you could tell the wheels on the Super Nitro are significantly larger. The downside is getting replacement wheels for vintage Nitro like this is very difficult. I've placed them both side to side here, and you can clearly tell that the Super Nitro has a little bit of a longer wheelbase. But really, it's all about the wheels. The best thing about these particular chassis is they have a little bit of taller ride height than these 10 scales. These HPI 10 scales, man, you need some really good smooth pavement, but when you have it, these are terrific runners. The Super Nitros, they're not exactly 8th scale. Now, the benefit of running a chassis like this, to me, is you can run small block engines like this HPI 15 FE motor. You can run a basic electronics. You need no specialty center diffs. It still maintains a 3-belt drive system that this RS4 has. So technically, you could run cheap small block engines like we are here, and you have more or less 8th scale chassis performance. Now, at this time, there were some manufacturers like Kyosho and Tamiya that made larger 8th scale on-road competitors, but in recent history, they've all died out, and we have almost no on-road RCs left other than Exceed and HSP. I'm sure there are some from Kyosho that you can name, but there's nothing of this larger chassis compared to the Super RS4 left today. Since the Instagram video where I just started the motor to make sure that it runs, I've done a little bit more work to it. I've installed a brand new steering servo, and I've also installed a FlySky GT5 radio and matching BS6 receiver. Pretty normal layout. This is my standard go-to electronic setup on all of my RCs that I'm repairing. So check out the servo speed. I'm very satisfied with this. So these servos, they're very inexpensive. They come with very good servo horns that you could basically put on anything. I paid about $20 for 4 of them on Amazon. I'll put a link to the product in the video description, so check them out. Highly reliable. Personally, I don't like servos that are extremely powerful, because a lot of times that just, on these older RCs, that winds up destroying all of your plastic parts if your endpoints and EPAs are not set correctly. But of course, with this FlySky radio right here, you'll never have that problem. Also, you have built-in fail-safe features and 6 channels. So the HPI Super Nitro RS4 chassis. It basically is a lengthened RS4. You could tell you have, it's a little funny looking. Look how long this chassis is here in the front. But it is significantly better compared to the way the RS4 was sold. So the couple upgrades that this one does have, and I don't mean to say upgrades like optional upgrades, I mean to say things that it actually came with. We have a front belt tensioner. So this was factory equipment on this one, unlike the regular RS4 where you had to buy an aluminum front belt tensioner. We also have another brace with a belt tensioner installed here on the side. So the regular RS4 does not come with these things. In terms of condition, this one is 100% stock other than the electronics. You really don't want to use vintage electronics nowadays. It's not even cost effective, and it's not in your best interest. So this exhaust, this is what was common in the old HPI series. These are what's known as Baffle style exhaust. I will tell you, they are very quiet. So when I started this thing up, it was very, very quiet. But of course, they are highly restrictive. These are not tuned pipes. These are not even as good as the plastic tuned pipes that HPI used to use years ago. But don't you worry, guys, because I have a little bit of an upgrade. You want me to show it to you? I'm going to show it to you. Take a look at what's in this bag. Let me open it up first. This is going to be great. What is this? Oh, we're about to get it. That's right. Do you see what I see? THS, baby. We got ourselves an actual THS pipe. This is probably the only expensive pipe I've ever purchased for any of my nitros. Let's talk about the motor a little bit. Obviously, all my nitros run. They are in like new condition. I fully restored this one. I did all of it off camera, but of course it was fully seized. No big deal, cleaned it, and now it runs. You just saw in the Instagram video. One of the interesting things about vintage nitro motors, especially the HPI brand, they had carbs that only had a single needle. So this is a diagram of the carb that we have. Notice they're pointing to this richer lean, and there's no mention of the low speed needle adjustment at all. Well, that's because this is what they call a single needle rotary carb. Rotary refers to the way the throttle arm itself is opening. So if I move the servo, you'll notice that it rotates the carb barrel open and closed. That's what they mean by rotary. Single needle means we have one adjustment. And of course, we always have the idle set screw, which is right here. But the idle set screw is not considered an actual needle because it doesn't change your fuel mixture in any way. The benefit of a single needle carb was, as you would expect, it was very easy to tune. So you never had to deal with the low speed needle at all because you didn't have one. That's all there was to it, guys. All you had to worry about was the temperature of the motor. If it's running too lean, well, you just richen it if it's too hot, and vice versa. It was fairly easy to use. Actually, the 15FE was my first engine that I ever ran. But of course, at that time, I was a complete noob, and I eventually wound up running it without the body. And what happened was I flipped the car, and the carb just somehow, broke off of the crankcase itself. But I never did that again, and now I always run these things with a body, or I run them very slow if I'm not sure how it's going to work. The way the battery pack is mounted is very similar to every single RS4. I'll show you guys right here. They basically just put the battery right here in the middle of the chassis for pretty good weight distribution, and then you have a zip tie that secures it. This is not the original zip tie. They did come with a much better one from the factory. So this one is a single speed because they just came with a single speed transmission from the factory. Of course, you could always get yourself a 2-speed baby. just how I have on this other RS4, and then you could yell 2-speed baby whenever you feel like it. But I still love the chassis layout on this thing. It is fairly easy to work on, and I gotta say, a lot of people tell me to get the Traxxas Fortec, but these belt drives, even though they're still using the 3 belts as you would expect in all belt systems, we have the front belt, we have the center belt, and then we have the belt going to the back here. That's the plastic disc brake. Man, the HPI belt drive systems, they are extremely smooth compared to the Traxxas Nitro Fortec, which, yes, I did used to own as a matter of fact. So, in terms of horsepower, these don't have much. We're talking about 0.5 horsepower. Now, of course, that's, we don't know in terms of the tuned exhaust or not, or whether it was tested with this canister muffler or not. So, eventually we will test it out, but I gotta say 0.5 horsepower is enough for me to do a donut. If I could do donuts, I'm fine. And this does do donuts because I did one off camera the other day, so it's fine. Now, notice these fuel lines. I'm trying to run as close to stock as possible. These are extremely thin. So here I put on a piece of modern fuel tubing onto the brake cam, instead of the spring. Notice how much thicker this fuel line is compared to this old HPI fuel line. And yet it's still not cracked. It's still fairly flexible, and there's absolutely no leaks in it of any kind. Man, HPI quality, it was great. We also have a handle in the center of the chassis, something that the other RS4 does not have. And my favorite feature is this primer bulb on the fuel tank. Man, I love this thing. Of course, these cars have exactly the same fuel tank, so a lot of parts from the Super Nitro and the regular RS4, they would fit, and that was a major benefit. Here's the original promo from the 2002 HPI catalog. We have the Super Nitro. Now, in terms of bodies, they had a couple options available. The one that we have, which is the Lamborghini Murcielago, is not here because, of course, there were multiple years and some bodies were discontinued. But these bodies are extremely unique, and they are not a typical 200mm body. They're what's known as the wide body. But either way, let's take a look at what they had to say about the Super Nitro, and we'll actually read it. The Super Nitro RS4 cars are over 20 inches long, almost 10 inches wide, and over 5 inches tall. With 4-wheel drive and a 20% larger stance than a 110 scale touring car, Super Nitro cars can handle tons of power and soak up bumpy parking lot surfaces. Super Nitro RS4 kits include a complete set of 22 ball bearings, a disc brake, oil-filled chocks, and a countersunk purple anodized aluminum chassis. Our efficient belt drive system provides smooth power to all 4 wheels, and each of the 3 drive belts has its own tensioner for easy adjustment. Well, that's all 100% completely true. Let's see what we got. We have oil-filled shocks, obviously. Gear brace and belt tensioner included. We saw that already. Heavy-duty countersunk aluminum chassis. Well, it's basically a basic chassis, but I guess at this time it was fairly interesting. So here is a interesting size comparison of what we have going on here. So the 1/10 scale right here, the Super, and the 1/8 scale. Now, of course, the 1/8 scale, I think they're referring to like these pan cars. Probably they're referring to the HPI Proceed, which was like a fortune. The truck, this is probably the Nitro MT at the time. And guys, I have about 2 of these micro RS4s. I love them. At the time, this was sold as a kit, and you needed basically electronics and all the standard stuff that you would normally need. But guys, HPI Super Nitro RS4. I love these things. There were a couple variations. Let's flip the page. We also had the Super Nitro Rally available, which honestly is a completely different chassis because this is no longer belt drive, this is shaft drive. And this reminds me of the RTR3 at that time. But notice it still has that older style cooling head on the HPI motor. I don't know why they did that. So yeah, you could see right here, it's still this older square style cooling head that came on the original Nitro RS4. But man, I saw one of these Super Nitro RS4s running when I was younger, and guys, at the time, this thing like blew me away. What else do we have here? Okay, so this is the 1/8 scale HPI Proceed that I was talking about. Yeah, very expensive, super high end. We're not going to talk about that. But either way, the HPI Super Nitro RS4, baby, you can't kill it. It's one of the coolest RCs ever. It looks fantastic. There's a lot of interesting things about it. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at some of these other literature things I have going on here because I have tabs on some of them, right? This 2000 issue of Radio Control Car Action magazine, back when Nitro RC cars were in magazines unlike today. So this is the Tower Hobbies part of the circular they had going on here. A lot of cool pictures and ads here. I used to love looking at this stuff. Actually, I still do. So this is what we got. HPI Super Nitro RS4. It was $269 and it came as a kit at the time. So yeah, it was not the ready to run. Now at the time, we also had this cool HPI Nitro RS4 2 Saline. I used to have this body. I love it, man. I still have dreams about it. I'm not kidding. But guys, this is what the hobby was about years ago. Today, you have almost no variety. There are almost no brands competing in the nitro segment, but I think HPI is here to make nitro great again, and we should all support them in the journey. And also give a like to this video, subscribe if you feel like it, because you just should if you want to support the hobby, you know. And maybe we'll check out a couple more cool things. Eventually, I will do a full running video of this Super Nitro, but for now, this was more or less just an info session and a little bit of a nitro history party walkthrough for me. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you later.
Your girl so fine, but her breath is like, ooh. She says she wanna dance, but she don't know how to. Her name is Jane, ooh. Bitch don't have no panties, ooh. I'm